So, welcome back to Nelson Network. Today we are going to follow up with a new DHCP configuration lab, which will be more complex than the other one. What we're going to do here, first of all, we have to exclude the first 10 IP addresses in each subnet from the pool. So we're going to create a network that's for we're going to create a network 10.1.10.0/24 for VLAN 10, and within this network we're going to exclude the first 10 addresses. Doing the same, we do the same for 10.1.20.0/24 VLAN 20. We will exclude the first 10 IP addresses, and we will configure the default gateway on the switch, on this switch right here. We will configure DNS server on the router. We will configure each pool, each DHCP pool with a DNS server which has the router as IP. And to confirm, we make sure that they can ping each other. So we will go directly into the router, come here, enable, when you don't know what to use, put a question mark. So let's go for so let's go into the configuration mode. Conf question mark IP DHCP exclude. So we're going to exclude the first 10 IP addresses of this network. That is 10.1.10.1. Put a question mark. Let's put the last IP 10.1.10.10. Let's do the same for the second network. Just come here and change this to 20. Okay, now we've done the first task on the router. So configure the pool name. So IP DHCP question mark pool question mark name VLAN 10. VLAN 10. So now we are in the IP DHCP for VLAN 10. We need to assign it a network. So let's put question mark and see what we have available here. So this is where we are. Let's choose network. Network 10.1.10.0 255.255.255.0. Now that we're here, what else can we configure here? Question mark. Configure the DNS server. So in this DHCP VLAN, you need a GH server for this VLAN. That is an IP address that will be used to serve as a DNS server, domain name resolution. So for that, we need to check on the switch. Show IP interface brief. You need to check. So we have this. That's for VLAN 10. We have this IP that's assigned. So we're going to use this as our DNS server. So sorry, we're going to use this instead as our default router, not DNS server. We're going to use this as our default router. So default router (10.1.10.1). So the DNS server will be the IP address of our router. Which is 10.1. So let's check the IP address of this router. You show IP interface brief. So this is the IP address of our router. So IP DHCP pool VLAN 10 DNS server 10.1.1.2.4. Yes. So let's do the same for VLAN 20 IP DHCP pool VLAN 20. Configure the network 10.1.20.0. 552.552.0. Now we have configured the default router to be the first. The default router is this one. Cut off from the switch. DNS the DNS, we use this one. So So far we've configured a DHCP pool name for VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. We've excluded the first 10 IP addresses in each pool, and we've configured the default gateway in each DHCP pool. We've configured the DNS server to be the router's IP on this interface. So now we need to enable our switch to perform routing. So we need to make this switch. Because this switch is a multi-layer switch, so it can perform switching and routing. We need it to route because this VLAN is a separate network on its own, and this VLAN is a separate network on its own. So it needs to route traffic from this VLAN to this VLAN. So because the switch only transfer traffic within the same VLAN, so for this switch to work as a router, we need to turn it into a router. And how do we do that? We do that by using the command IP routing. So we come here, IP question mark. If you're not sure, IP routing. So now we've made our router, our switch to act like a router by using this command, IP routing. Let's wait with this first and configure the router to be able to route traffic. Let's set static route for it to be able to route traffic to those DHCP pools. IP route. What do we have here? Let's use show IP route. So you see the gateway of last resort is not set. So we need to also configure static route to from the subnet to our loopback interface. So let's configure default is a static IP route to the various subnets. IP route. So we are on our router here. We need to configure a static route so that our router can allocate DHCP to this network, VLAN 10. So in order to do that, we put the network address 255.0. So this is the destination. This is our destination network. Now we are telling the router we are trying to get to this destination network, but we need to pass through through the switch. So the IP of this switch is VLAN 1. This is the IP. So let's see, do show interface VLAN 1. So as we see, do show interface VLAN, that's the IP on that interface. So we're going to use the IP of the VLAN interface VLAN 1, 10.1.1.1 for that static route. So we do the same now, but for the second network subnet, we've configured static route to this, from the router to this subnet. So our router will be able to allocate DHCP addresses to these different subnets. We can do it. We can check the configuration, do show run. So far we have configured pool VLAN 20, we pull VLAN 10. If I assign a DNS server, which is the router's IP, a default router, which is the first IP in the subnet, we've excluded these addresses. We have configured static route to this destination subnet, passing through VLAN 1, the default VLAN. We can do show IP interface brief. So we have this. So we also have a loopback address. So we need to configure a static route on our switch for it to communicate to the loopback address. So now we've enabled RP. Let's enable RP routing on the switch. So IP route, what's the address? We're trying to create a static route for this loopback. 1.1.1 255.255.255.255. So this route, you're going to this destination. So this switch is going to this loopback interface, which is a virtual interface on this router. In order to reach there, it needs to pass through the IP address of the router on this interface. So this IP address. So 10.1.1.254. Yeah. So now, as it is, we are in the switch right now. We need to go into, let's do show interface brief. Do show IP interface. We need to go in each of these interfaces to configure something so that whenever a device in this network, in this subnet, sends a broadcast message for DHCP, that is a DHCP request, we need to make sure that the router is able to convey that message. We need to make sure that the switch, is able to convey that message to the router. So in order to do that, we need a command called IP helper. So we need that command to make sure that the switch redirects the request to the router. So let's get into interface VLAN 10. IP, let's do IP helper. So we want this command to help us redirect any DHCP request from interface VLAN 10 to go to our router. So go to the router, which has default gateway as this. So this command, we are in VLAN 10 right here. As you see, we are in VLAN 10. So IP question mark, we choose IP helper address, specify a destination address, specify a destination address for UDP broadcast. So this means that any device in VLAN 10, any PC in VLAN 10, which requests the DHCP IP by sending a broadcast message, when the switch, because these PCs are only connected to the switch, they are not connected to the router. When the switch receives these broadcast messages from this VLAN 10, from devices in the VLAN 10 subnet, this command tells the switch that please, all the broadcast messages that you receive from VLAN 10, redirect it to this IP, which is the default gateway of our router, which is the IP address of our router on this interface, gigabit 000. So the switch will receive a broadcast and send a unicast address, a unicast message to this IP. So it receives a broadcast message and sends a unicast message to this IP. So that was for VLAN 10. Let's exit that. Let's go into VLAN 20. Do the same command. Now let's exit that. That should be good. Let's check our running config. Do show run. We use do because we are in config mode. If we go back to privilege mode, we just use show run. Do show run. Let's see what we have here. So we have that VLAN 1 is the default VLAN. It has this configured. It has IP address 10.1.1.1, subnet mask of 24. We have VLAN 10, which has this IP address 10.1.10.1/24. We have the IP helper address, which helps forward traffic, broadcast traffic from any device, any host here in this range of IPs, in this subnet. This command forwards it to the router. IP helper, it forwards it to the router. So that's that for that. We have the same for VLAN 20, and we have a static route to get to the loopback address, to the loopback network, which is this one, passing through the router. So we can exit out of this. Right name to save. Let's do show run to see what we have configured here. Here we have on the router we have excluded the first 10 IP address in each network. We have created VLAN 10 pool. We have allocated it a network. We have given it a default router, which is the first IP address in its network, given the DNS server, which of course it will be the IP address of our router. We have the same for VLAN 20. This is the IP address of a loopback network that we've configured, our virtual network that we've configured on the router. And this is our static route to the first VLAN, because we need to tell the router how to allocate DHCP IP addresses to this VLAN. This is the static route that permits that. So this we have the VLAN 10 passing through the switch VLAN 1, the default VLAN. VLAN 20, this is the network. So this is the destination passing through the switch, which is VLAN 1. So we save that as well. So now let's go to the PCs. So this is a PC in VLAN 10. Let's see if it works. Let's click DHCP. Click DHCP and let's go IP config. Normally it will take some time. Let's try to ping 10.1.1.254. So we need to do something about that. Let's see. It normally takes time, so this will take some few minutes before working. Let's try to see. So yeah, here we go. Now we have DHCP that has allocated. I didn't do any change. You see, the first time I tried, I had this. So now it took some time. Now it has updated by itself. So you see the first IP in the VLAN 20 subnet is this one. The default gateway is this. It has allocated it directly. So these IPs were allocated by our router. So let's check also from this. Let's put here DHCP. And let's come here. See? It has allocated directly DHCP here. So let's check IP config. So this is the IP, DHCP default gateway, IP config /all. You see the DNS server. This is the DNS server. So yeah, IP config /all. We got the DNS server right here. So yeah, that's it for that. Let's try and ping 10.1.20.11. Let's ping that. See, the ping works because it goes through the default gateway and pings. So we can ping that. We can ping, let's ping the router, ping 10.1.1.254. It works. So we can ping everything. So that was very complex lab. I think I will later, with time, I will redo this lab with more details and really better explanation, because this was really complex with a lot of technologies involved. But nonetheless, yeah, we completed it, and we can ping our look back also. Let's see if that works. Yeah, you can ping everything. So that's how we allocate DHCP IPs using the router as a DHCP server. So I hope this video helps someone out there who might be interested in learning how to configure DHCP server on a router. So thank you. See you next video. Peace.